jump right in. So thank you, Sheila, so much for taking the time to do this podcast with us. I will introduce myself. So I am Stasi Kasianchuk, and I am a registered dietitian, exercise physiologist, and a menopause coach at Gennev. So to give you a little bit of background, Gennev is a women's health company that focuses on supporting women during peri and menopause, and food and lifestyle play a really big role in this. So as a dietitian, exercise physiologist, I focus on helping women to find strategies that can best help them. And today we're going to talk with you about the Mediterranean diet. And you are a chef, so I'd love for you to introduce yourself, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, where you work, and what you do, and then we'll get into that even more as we go throughout the podcast.
All right. Hi, I'm Sheila Gomez. I am a sous chef at the Carbon Beach Club at the Malibu Beach Inn in Malibu, California. And as a sous chef, I'm basically the support staff of the executive chef. So I'm doing a little bit of everything. I'm ensuring food quality, training some kitchen staff, ordering the food. And basically my goal is just to put out the best food possible and give the diner a great dining experience.
Awesome. That sounds like a very important role, and a role that I'm sure keeps you pretty busy.
It sure does.
Yeah. Well, thinking about the Mediterranean diet, and I took a look at some of the foods that you provide at the Carbon Beach Club. They look amazing. So if I'm ever in Malibu, I'll definitely stop by. They look delicious, and definitely with Mediterranean influence and focus there. From a health perspective, so as a dietitian, I recommend the Mediterranean diet. So looking at really fresh, colorful fruits and vegetables, whole foods, fish, especially wild caught fish that can be provided for the clients that have access to that. Lots of healthy fat, so your olive oil, avocado, olives. This can really help to women to manage symptoms around menopause, including inflammation, joint pain. It's good for brain health. A lot of women experience brain fog during menopause, and providing foods from the Mediterranean diet can help their brain health. So those are some of the reasons that we recommend it. I would love to hear more on your perspective of your approach to preparing these foods, and what that experience has been for you, maybe as you've worked over your time at the Carbon Beach Club or any other experience before that.
I think the Mediterranean diet allows us to, when it comes to food, it really allows the ingredients to shine. So that's a great perspective when you look at the Mediterranean diet. So as a chef, it's almost easier because you don't have to do so much to change the food. If you have quality seasonal ingredients, the flavors are out of this world and you really don't have to complicate it too much. So as a chef, you almost have to hold yourself back from changing it too much, and you want to show it for what it really is.
That's great to hear. And I think that's that's okay.
Sorry.
You're back. No problem. That's one thing too. I think a lot of women that I work with, especially if they haven't been used to preparing foods and now they're focused more on their nutrition, they get concerned that eating healthy is going to taste bad. Or it's not going to have flavor. It's not going to have something that they're going to look forward to eating. But based on what you said, the Mediterranean style cooking really already has flavors, and the preparation is really just emphasizing those flavors.
Exactly. When you grab seasonal squash, it tastes amazing. You really don't have to do much. Sea salt and olive oil go a long way, which is a good key part of the Mediterranean diet, olive oil. There's so much flavor in good olive oil. And I think a lot of people shouldn't shy away from the simplicity of the Mediterranean diet. It's not as boring as one would think, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that you mentioned not shying away from olive oil. Sometimes because weight management is also a concern during menopause, women think any type of oil and they automatically think fat, high calories, I can't have that. Same thing with nuts. I hear that a lot. Oh, I can't have nuts because they're high in fat or they're high in calories. And I love the the point that you make around this is if thinking about food in terms of flavor. The Mediterranean diet, following a Mediterranean nutrition plan, gives you an opportunity to shift from calories and nutrients and really start thinking about flavor and enjoyment of the food.
Hmm.
And in turn, you get the benefit. So something like olive oil, well, yes, from a calorie standpoint, it is going to be higher because it is primary, or it is all fat, and has higher calories. The benefits of that olive oil, I would say, supersede the concern around the caloric content, especially if it helps you to enjoy a meal. I would imagine
Hmm.
that something prepared in olive oil is going to be much better than if it's just prepared in a pan by itself. You might not be able to get it out of the pan also if you don't use some type of oil.
Exactly. And, I encourage people to even just take a tablespoon of olive oil and
Mhm.
see and like taste it and really know what you're getting. And
Eh,
that's what I love from a chef standpoint, is that you really go into the flavors,
mhm.
individual flavors of all our ingredients. And I
Absolutely.
think we've kind of gotten away from that as a society sometimes with our prepackaged foods and our processed foods. Like, have a spoon of olive oil.
Yeah. No, that's such a good point. Do you have any recommendations on if someone's looking to purchase a high quality olive oil, maybe for someone that really wants that top shelf olive oil,
Yeah.
how they know that, or middle of the road too for someone that might, be more budget conscious?
I think you want to just make sure it's in a dark bottle,
Hmm.
and you can press olive oil. California makes great olive oils, which not I don't think a lot of people know that. You don't have to get Italian olive oil or Spanish olive oil. Like, we make olive oil here in California. So as long as there's a harvest date, you can really see where they get their olives from
Hmm.
and pay attention to where they're sourcing it from. But
Okay.
otherwise, there's a plethora of olive oils ranging from high price to low price. You just gotta know what to look for, whether it's the packaging of the dark bottle and where the olives are sourced from. If you get a harvest date, that's even more of a plus.
Awesome. That's good to know. I'll have to check that out next time I buy olive oil as well.
Yeah.
What about the tasting of something like olive oil? You mentioned, just taking a spoonful. What should someone look for from a smell, taste standpoint?
There should definitely be a peppery aftertaste
Mm,
that ensures like the freshness of your olive oil. It should be a little bit bitter.
okay.
There are different kinds of olive oils with from different, types of olives, but
Mhm.
the freshness, I think, does come with that kick, and that's
Yeah.
how you can tell.
Okay. Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
we'll get some people out there tasting their olive oils to
Yeah.
help with flavoring things.
Yeah, of course.
Um, what other ingredients would you say are your go-tos when it comes to flavoring foods simply? You mentioned salt, pepper, olive
Uh,
oil. Anything else that stands out to you?
Onions and garlic are
Yeah.
probably my top two. They can
Hmm.
make anything taste so much better.
Yeah.
And I think they're really underrated, onions and garlic. Citrus is great, whether it's
Hmm.
oranges or lemons. That always adds a wonderful element to any dish you're making, adding some acidity, and vinegars as well.
Okay. Excellent.
I think really just those basic ingredients will give you a rounded taste in any dish you're doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's just it sounds like there's a fat component with the olive oil. You're getting some of the acidity balance with the vinegar or
Hmm.
citrus, and then really some of those um, aromatic flavors with
Oh,
garlic
fresh
and
herbs
onion.
as well. Yes. And
Excellent.
any fresh herbs, rosemary, oregano, mint. Like,
Uh-huh.
there's so many. Grab
Yeah.
anything and try it. Cilantro. Like, they all taste different, but they all taste wonderful.
Excellent. Yeah, simple things that can make a big difference.
Hmm.
And just to put the dietitian plug in here, all of the things you mentioned have so many nutrients. And this is a great way, I think, thinking about the flavor aspect that you talked about. So again, changing that perspective of preparing a meal based on flavor, preparing a meal based on simplicity, and then in turn you get the benefit of the nutrients of all these things. So you mentioned the citrus, that's going to be vitamin C, which is definitely an anti-inflammatory component as well. And then even some of the garlic and onions, great for the fiber components of garlic and onions, can be great for digestion. And then they also provide plant chemicals, phytochemicals that can help with detoxification. So here you are preparing a flavorful meal and supporting your body at the same time. So this is great to hear.
I really think people forget that herbs, are a plant and provide nutrition.
Yes, I completely agree. I don't know that we think of when you're adding herbs to something, or to add herbs, you are providing additional benefits. And they certainly, lots of anti-inflammatory benefits in all the herbs that you mentioned, and in small amounts. You don't need to have a whole bunch of cilantro on one plate to get the benefits. You can use them to add flavor without having this pile of cilantro on your plate, unless you want it. I mean, some people are cilantro fans.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, let's talk. You mentioned a lot of these ingredients. I'd love to hear what some of your tips are in terms of preparing foods, or even some really easy recipes to do. And what comes to mind when you talked a lot about just trying things, and I love, sounds like you're really encouraging people, just get into the kitchen, put some ingredients together, and don't be scared.
See if you like it.
Yeah, exactly. Worst case scenario, it goes in the compost.
Here we go again. Sorry.
That's okay. But hopefully someone in the family likes it. So what have you experimented with? Maybe share, obviously you have a background in food and culinary preparation, but things that are almost fail proof if someone were to just throw things together and try to experiment.
I think if you start with a lean protein or a piece of good salmon, you have your base there. And again, it doesn't have to be the main star of your meal, but if you would like some protein, start with that. And then start with a good base, whether it's like a baked sweet potato or a cup of cooked whole grains, farro, bulgur, couscous. There's so many different grains you can start with. Brown rice. So you have the protein and your grains as a base, and just roast some vegetables, whether it's squash or even more onions, cipollini onions, asparagus. Have your roasted vegetables, and then, I don't know, dress it up with a little Greek yogurt with some garlic and parsley. And I think it's a great, well-rounded meal, and it didn't require a lot. You just had to cook some fish, cook some grains, roast some vegetables, and then just, add some pizzazz with some Greek yogurt.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great point too, of things that are already prepared. You don't have to make the Greek yogurt. It's already something that you can just add. Again, going to add more protein from the Greek yogurt. You're going to get the benefits of the calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, a lot of nutrients packed onto that plate. And I'm envisioning this plate as well, and I see just a lot of color on there. Would you say that the majority of your plates are colorful that you prepare?
Yeah, I mean, with any vegetable, you're already adding a spectrum of colors. And then that's usually what speaks to me. Like, just throwing on a handful of herbs is such vibrant things, that you want to eat it. And if you finish it off with some bright green peppery olive oil, you really got a complete meal without really trying hard. It's really just nature's like a table, and you're just putting it together. And that's what kind of gets me excited about cooking. Like, there's so many ingredients, and you can put in whatever that you feel like having, as long as it's fresh and it's wholesome. The possibilities are endless, really.
Yeah, the simplicity of whole food ingredients, thinking about color on your plate. And I like the point you make too about making the plate look good. When a plate looks good,
Yeah.
I would say we all want to eat that food versus if you look
Mm-hmm.
down at a plate that's just kind of blah, maybe all the same color, doesn't have that pizzazz that you talked about. So
Yeah.
simply adding just a handful of herbs, and drizzling that olive oil can really make it,
Mm-hmm.
is Instagram picturesque without too much effort. It
Don't
doesn't have
give
to be
away the
flawless.
secret.
I know. That's but if everyone sat down to a meal that way or thought about your plates,
Mm-hmm.
how much nature is on your plate when you look at it is a
Yeah.
great approach. And then also
Mm-hmm.
what can you do to add flavor, adding more of those herbs, thinking about the garlic and onions as basics. I mean, we're not talking a lot of ingredients or a lot of time to prepare.
Yeah. Even a slice of lemon, like
Hmm.
it can elevate anything,
Yeah.
and it's just, I feel like we've gotten away from a lot of just normal things that have been in front of us this whole time. You don't need the ketchup, grab the lemon.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, for sure. Something that's definitely more whole food and fresh versus
Yeah.
ketchup that can last in your refrigerator for another
Is
12
that
years.
a new thing? Lemons, nature's ketchup. I'm
Yeah,
just
exactly. You coined it here first.
yeah.
Yeah. And way more anti-inflammatory properties in the lemon than you're probably
Hmm.
going to find in the ketchup.
Cheaper
Um,
as well.
yes, exactly. Well, one thing that comes to mind, I do have some clients who are vegetarian, and you did mention, salmon as a protein source. What would you recommend as your plant-based protein source that's go-tos that fall into this style of eating?
I think beans and legumes are pretty amazing.
Hmm.
Chickpeas, I love chickpeas, and I'm a big fan of peanut butter as well. I
Hmm.
know.
Yeah,
I know jury
absolutely.
can be out on peanut butter, but
Yeah.
I'm a fan of peanut butter, and really nuts, and quinoa is a great one
Hmm.
also. But there's a lot of tofu is great,
Hmm.
you know. So, but I'm a meat eater, so it's kind of hard for me to be like, oh, I do this also.
Yeah. Hey, appreciate your honesty, but
Yeah.
you mentioned some great ones there that are going to, again, pack a lot of nutrients. Fiber is going to be a really great benefit of some of those plant-based proteins like the chickpeas, the legumes. So another benefit there for digestion and overall gut health. Um, and the other, I like how you also pointed out quinoa. And I think a lot of people forget that quinoa is a higher protein grain,
Hmm.
and certainly can contribute to protein needs while also being a complex carbohydrate, and again, more fiber, vitamins, and minerals in that as well. Yes, good reminders there,
Yes.
of how to incorporate things. And I think, like you said, you can still have those even as someone that eats more
Yeah.
meat. There's ways to incorporate those as well.
Yeah. And I find that I've discovered stir frying quinoa
Mhm.
is an amazing way of just getting a quick meal and throwing in your veggies and getting your full serving of vegetables.
Absolutely. And do you cook the quinoa first, or do you just cook it in the stir fry?
I cook the quinoa first. I'm a big
Okay.
fan of like preparing a good amount of grains, whether it's rice or quinoa
Hmm.
or farro. I just like to have that on the side and it's ready to go whenever you need a quick meal.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And so do you prepare that beforehand and then you can add it in
Yeah.
different ways?
Yeah. That's what we usually do because we even when feeding our staff and such, we'll just have a good amount of, pre-cooked grains and
Hmm.
we just toss that together with some kind of salad or we'll mix some protein into it and it's very versatile and
Yeah,
I imagine it would work in the homescape as well.
yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point too from the convenience standpoint. And because you can prepare those grains, one day, maybe it's on a Sunday, you prepare a large batch and then you can incorporate it in various meals
Hmm.
throughout the week. So a little bit of meal prep. Some clients I work with love the meal prep option and they'll prepare their meals for the week. Other people are like, please don't tell me to prepare my meals for Monday through Friday. I don't even know if I can get through Monday. So but having that balance of here's a simple step, Just
Mm-hmm.
choose one thing. Choose maybe one week it's quinoa, the next week it's brown rice. Make a double or a triple batch, depending on how many people you're cooking for. Have that in the fridge, and then you can reheat it. So you could add it to that stir fry, another great option to get brightly colored vegetables there.
Mm-hmm.
You could add it to a salad and make kind of like a grain bowl, is what comes to mind for me. Or you could just have it on the side with another lean protein and more vegetables.
You know what I found is also very good, versatile for
Yeah.
whether sweet or savory?
Uh-huh.
Oatmeal, like steel cut oats. I don't think
Excellent.
a lot of people think about the savory side of oatmeal.
Hmm.
Like you could heat some oatmeal up with some vegetable stock
Uh-huh.
and
Ooh.
just have some roast veggies and again another lean piece of fish or no fish or no meat. Oatmeal and roasted vegetables actually are very very good together. We kind of forget that because we're just thinking of our oatmeal, brown sugar, and pecans.
Yeah, exactly. No, I've seen more recipes for the savory oatmeal, and it's interesting. I was actually looking at some yesterday thinking I need to try that. I have not tried a savory oatmeal, but some of them just look so satisfying where you do
Yeah.
have, like you said, I love the idea of a vegetable broth or even, chicken broth or beef broth
Mhm.
that's going to provide more depth and flavor. Um,
Mhm.
I think we get confined by rules of
Yeah.
breakfast has to be sweet, lunch and dinner are
Who made that
savory.
rule?
Exactly. Break the rules. We're telling people to break rules.
Yeah.
But
Savory yogurt and savory oatmeal.
exactly. Stepping outside the box, which
Yeah.
finding those flavors is another way to decrease sugar intake, which, as a population, we know that continues to increase. And there's places
Mhm.
for sugar. I think working with clients that are trying to find a balance there, there's a lot of people want to decrease their amount of sugar, and that's a great way to
Yeah.
do it though, is by focusing more on those savory flavors. It doesn't mean you have to take out flavor altogether, but let's swap them.
Yeah.
And decreasing sugar for women during menopause can really help to better manage hot flashes, and joint pain. It can even help improve sleep, and also moodiness and dealing with mood changes. So great benefit there, and still be able to have some enjoyment of experimenting with
Yeah.
something else.
And I think people need to just remember, like, when they're cooking for themselves and making meals for themselves, they're taking control of their sugar intake. Like,
Hmm.
because going out for a salad that you think is just a salad can contain a lot of sugar
Hmm.
without, because you haven't prepared it. You don't know what we're adding. Me from
Yeah.
the restaurant point,
Yeah.
I could be adding, 2 cups of sugar to your salad. You don't know that. So
Hmm.
when people take the time and prepare food for themselves, they really are taking a big step in taking control of their health.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a good point too of food preparation. Is an opportunity to take control. During menopause, there's a lot of things out of your control, but focusing on those things that you can control can be a really great benefits from a health standpoint, and also from a psychological standpoint, where there is that, this is something I can do right now, and I'm going to focus on that, whether it's for just yourself or even for your family.
Yeah. Take the power back.
Exactly. Your hormones may be out of control, but you could still prepare a meal.
Exactly.
Simply. Yeah.
Don't blame the hormones.
Exactly. They can't, the hormones are not going to dictate whether you're in the
Yeah.
kitchen or not. You can still do that.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
um, Based off of your experience, and do you have any resources that you would recommend, whether it's someone that's just starting to get into cooking this way, whether it's a book or a website, or just tips for when you're looking for ingredients like this that could help someone get started?
I mean, the internet is really everyone's best friend. I don't know of specific sites, but
Okay.
even just when we were talking about the Mediterranean diet, I just put those 2 words in and the results were endless,
Hmm.
And but actually I also encourage people going to the library and just looking at the cookbooks that they have there. You don't have to spend money on a cookbook, but
Hmm.
you can visibly see the beautiful pictures of vegetarian cookbooks or Mediterranean cookbooks. There's so
Okay.
many resources out there, but I'm a fan of the internet and also the public library and having a physical book that you can hold and that provides so much inspiration.
Yeah. Well, and it aligns with what your recommendations are in terms of preparing Mediterranean style food. Keep it simple. Just
Yeah.
stick to a simple Google search, see what comes up, get some inspiration of ideas to try, or go to your local library where you can check out various books and see the pictures, which I think the pictures, like we talked about, just the color of really getting an idea of like, this is what simple cooking can look like.
Yeah.
And what your plate can look like, and not having to worry that it needs to take a lot of time or that it needs to take a lot of energy, but just being able to visualize that and go for color.
Yeah. I'm also a fan of people trusting themselves. Like, I think people are very much like, oh, I don't cook, I don't know. It's like, but everyone knows what they want to eat, what makes them feel good. And it's just trusting yourself again to make good decisions. And, you're not going to poison yourself with your cooking. I promise.
Yes, exactly. If the first bite doesn't taste that good, then maybe, try again tomorrow.
Exactly. It's just one meal. That's what
Yes.
I also tell myself. Like, when the pressure is like hitting you hard about cooking this dish, it's just one meal. Chances are you're going to eat again and it's going to be better, and you won't make the same mistake that you did if you made a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes mistakes could maybe turn into the best secret ingredient.
Genius.
Yes. Like,
the
we
chocolate
wouldn't have
chip cookie
known.
was a mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're not here to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I do think that might be a good note. Maybe not chocolate chip cookies, but what about, we talked about savory. There's a lot of savory and flavor in Mediterranean style foods, but what about dessert? Do you prepare those in your work? Are there more Mediterranean style desserts that come to mind?
Mediterranean style desserts. I mean, I really think the Mediterranean style desserts focus on fresh fruit,
Yeah.
some honey, maybe perhaps a little cheese. That's what I find to be, and honestly, those are great together. Nuts and honey and a little, again, yogurt is a great dessert. Fresh fruit with some honey, also delicious.
Yeah.
And, panna cottas, not super Mediterranean, but in the essence of just like a little dairy and also highlighted with fresh fruit. It's delicious. But again, it's back to keeping it simple as far as dessert.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to be able, like you said, the fruit, you get a little bit of sweetness, add a little bit of honey, but you're in control of how much honey you add if you want a little bit more, and then balance it with maybe a couple slices of cheese. So you have also some of that savory or the yogurt, where you're going to get some sweets, and then also a lot of nutrients. And that's what I find that women do experience as their hormones are fluctuating, sugar cravings. But, often if they suppress those and say, I'm going off all sugar, I'm not having any sugar at all, then it comes back with roaring a vengeance of, yes, you will have sugar. And then all of a sudden it's like mindlessly to the store for the ice cream. Exactly.
Yeah.
So having something, preparing ahead of time, having fresh fruit available, a little bit of honey, little bit of yogurt, cheese can be a great way to just counter that.
Or you can bake air if you want something more cooked, like bake a whole apple, bake a whole pear, and then sprinkle some on it with, maybe a little brown sugar, and I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, great. That's amazing. The when you add heat to fruits like that, how it can bring some of those flavors together or concentrate some of the natural sugars in there.
Yeah, I think the Mediterranean diet allows you to be more creative because, it's not confining you. I think you're just trying to find new ways to enjoy foods that are really good for you.
Yeah, exactly. That creativity. Well, I like the all of these points that you had. I think, the takeaways that I have are keep things simple. Try fresh ingredients, herbs add a lot of flavor, onions and garlic add a lot of flavor. Find your favorite olive oil. And then also don't be afraid to get into the kitchen and just experiment. look at your plate. It should be a plate from nature, the majority of it, and really start thinking about flavors as opposed to calories and nutrients. Using a different lens to look through when building meals can provide a lot of nutrients and enjoyment around the food, which is also really important.
Yeah.
Any other take-home points that you have at this point, or information you want to provide about the Carbon Beach Club? Anything as we finish up here?
Really not so much, but I think everyone should just remember it doesn't take that much time to cook yourself a good meal, whether it's a salad or soup. Like though some of these things can take as little as 10 minutes. You just gotta want to do it and take a chance, throw it in the pot. What's the worst that can happen?
Exactly. Consider it an adventure, and an activity for the day, a learning experience.
Yeah, and it's a great connection with yourself when you're preparing your own food. You don't need a chef like me to do it for you. You can do it. No one knows your body better than you, and why not feed yourself at times?
Absolutely. Yeah. A great message there, just in terms of the overall connection into what your body needs and listening to that, and then experimenting with actually making the food for it.
Yeah.
Well, Sheila, thank you so much for your time and information. We appreciate this, and really enjoy having this conversation with you.
Oh, I had a great time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.